Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me okay? Maybe that's better. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 2024 Undoing Racism Day of the Community Breakfast Collaborative. A special welcome to all of the students who are here today. And so I want to recognize the students who are here. So my students are here from Villanova University from the Augustine and Culture Seminar. So can my students just give a wave? So just check out, there's a lot of students here today. Let's clap for you guys. Yay! And then we also have students from Radnor Middle School. So can you all give a wave? Just a wave so we see where you are. Because the students are spread out at all different tables so we can have intergenerational conversation as well as all of the other inters. You know, having the intergenerational is really awesome. And then we have the Radnor High School students here this morning as well. So can you guys all give a wave from the BSU? Good. Welcome to everyone who is live streaming with us today. The link is posted on the website, and so you see those cameras up there that are broadcasting the live streaming for people who aren't able to attend in person. And then thank you to Jackson right there because he's recording the program, and we'll have that recording online on YouTube at a certain point too. So thanks to Jackson. Thank you also to the Villanova Dining Services staff who made the buffet, and there's chocolate croissants, yogurt, oatmeal, as you guys know. So thank you to the Villanova Dining Services too, getting us all set up. Thank you to our board of directors of the Community Breakfast Collaborative as well. So there's 6 of us, and we're all volunteers. So can you, everybody, board members, just raise your hand and wave? So Chuck and Gitty, Diana, Susan, and Reverend Carolyn's on the way. The Community Breakfast Collaborative, so I'm pointing out the PowerPoint that's been running. There's a lot of information on there, and I'm not going to restate it. But the Community Breakfast Collaborative marks 15 years of work advancing the mission to become the beloved community through civic engagement, dialogue, education, networking, prayer, and action. And we continue together, all of us together really, to create a space of hospitality where we can gather to celebrate unity while embracing the difference. So a big part of our mission, in addition to everything here, which this is also a selfie location after the breakfast, it would be great to have selfies of all the students and everybody who wants to. You could email a copy even of your photo to our email. So we can put it on the website afterwards. But really what we are doing is we're championing racial justice, and we're following in the steps of Dr. King. Today's program is one that highlights economic justice and connecting to Dr. King's dream. It's about dreamers who turn their dreams into an action plan, and so today, specifically a business plan, right? Today, our moderator and our panelists are going to address the topic, doing business while Black on the main line, creating, supporting, and sustaining. And we really welcome our panelists, Eric Murchison from Wisfis Bank, Ron Williford from his own business, Philadelphia Financial Consultants, Dr. Donna Alley from Team Clean Inc., and Nalani James of Nalani Adele Collections, and our moderator, Diana Robertson, who I'll say more about in a minute. I want to say also, there is a QR code on the flyer on your table, so this way you could bring up the printed program. And there's especially background on each of the panelists and the moderator that you would be able to see there. So you just scan that QR code. More thank you. Oh, dear. Thank you to our institutional sponsors. We have institutional sponsors, Villanova University, St. Thomas of Villanova Parish, Wisfis Bank, and Radnor Township. And I also want to acknowledge that we have 5 members of the Radnor Police Department with us today. And again, you all are spread out at different tables too, so so folks can meet you and talk with you. In terms of Wisfis Bank, we have these really cool looking green pens. So this is merch. These were given to us by Wisfis Bank, so you can take a pen with you this year. So that's kind of fun. And then we also have sponsors from our faith community. So the Bethel AME Church in Ardmore, Central Baptist Church in Wayne, the Baha'i Faith of Radnor Township, and St. Mary's Episcopal Church in Ardmore. And then just for information, the event's being recorded, so by being present, you're giving permission to have your image recorded. There's rules for dialogue that have been scrolling by that really guide us in our discussions with each other. It's important to talk with each other even when we may disagree or have different points of view, so we have ground rules for dialogue. And even St. Augustine would say, who is the Villanova University is founded based on Augustinian principles and by the Augustinian order. As St. Augustine would say, our relationships are more important than our opinions. So even when we disagree, we still want to maintain our relationship with each other. So we have the ground rules for dialogue that we're scrolling by and given to us by Dr. Terry Nance. And I know a bunch of you were here last year when we recognized her because she did retire from Villanova University after 41 years, I want to say. So we're grateful for everything that she's given to this event as well. And also, at the very beginning, I was supposed to say, on behalf of Villanova University, welcome to Villanova University to the 2024 Undoing Racism Day breakfast, because I'm Villanova as well. So in terms of how the program's going to operate, and you would have seen it on the program, and it's on the online program, we're going to have our opening prayer given by Reverend Angel Pagan, who is the pastor of Lower Marion Baptist Church. And he was actually one of our panelists last year, so I like this maintaining the connection, which is really good. And then I'll introduce Diana Robertson, who will be our moderator, and then Diana will take over the program from there. And then at the conclusion, we'll have a closing prayer from Reverend Carolyn Cavanis, who's on our board. She's the vice president. And just some final remarks and when we're getting together next year. So I'll turn it over to Reverend Angel Pagan for our opening prayer. You know what, before the opening prayer, let me just say about these index cards. This one is where you would write your questions during the panel discussion, and if you just hold up the card like this, one of us will come from around and collect it from you. And this one is for your own notes. If there's some notes that you want to make for yourself, books that you want to read, phone numbers of people that you've met, you want to stay in touch, that's what this card is. So there's the whole bag there of pens and the different types of index cards, and then also the pens, of course, the Wisfis pens.
Would you pray with me? Lord, we gather in this place. Many people from many different backgrounds, Lord, but focused and willing to begin the conversations or to continue the conversations on racism, Lord. Lord, hold a mirror to our face. Allow us to see within and allow us, Lord, to share. Regardless of where we may stand, Lord, I pray that you, Lord, would shine light within each and every person here. And Lord, I pray that we be willing to share and to talk and to, Lord, move into the next step. I pray, Lord, at this time and lift up the panelists. I pray that you would use them as your instruments today to speak truth, to share, Lord, and to guide these people as they listen. Lord, inspire new thought. Inspire, Lord, and encourage. And Lord, I pray that you would help those who are unwilling to look beyond to open their eyes. I pray, Lord, that your Spirit would abide here with us. I pray this in your holy and your precious name. Amen.
Diana Robertson, my friend, we were on the phone and on email yesterday a few times, and the day before. Diana Robertson is, I'm going to read this, but Diana is one of our board members for the Community Breakfast Collaborative, and she's actually the board secretary as well. But Diana's had a tremendous influence and hand in putting together this year's program. Among the many things for which she is known, Ms. Diana Robertson is a paralegal, civil rights advocate, promoter for youth and education, writer, entrepreneur, as well as a grandmother and mother of 2 adult children and 1 son-in-law. She has worked both professionally and as a volunteer for most of her life, serving the Main Line, Philadelphia, and other communities, both at her church, Zion Baptist Church of Ardmore, 46 years, and through the NAACP Mainline branch for 37 years, Pennsylvania State Conference of the NAACP for 25 years, and National Resolutions Committee 8 years. She has held a significant number of leadership roles. Additionally, she is the host of Have Your Say on MLTV Mainline Network and serves on committees and boards of several organizations. She also serves as secretary of the board of directors for the Community Breakfast Collaborative. We're grateful today to have Diana Robertson be our moderator. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. I know it's early, but hopefully we'll have some lively conversation going and wake everyone up. So, in visiting different stores, whether in the mall or otherwise, what I have found is that many things are very different since the pandemic. Some stores have just shut down. Some have been created and are thriving. Some have stood the test and have been sustainable. So as part of our topic for today, what has made the difference as to whether a business could be created and thrive? When it comes to Black businesses, do we know where they exist to even support them? And finally, for whatever business exists, what will keep them sustainable? And for all of these questions, is there a different dynamic when we talk about Black businesses on the main line? So this morning, we hope to have an interesting conversation with our panelists to determine what are some of the key factors necessary to indicate that success is imminent. So as part of our panelists, we have Mr. Eric Murchison, who is Vice President for Small Business Relations Manager for Wissers Bank. Mr. Ronald Williford, CEO and founder of Philadelphia Financial Consultants. Ms. Nalani James, a student entrepreneur and founder of Nalani Adele Collections. And we have Ms. Donna Ali, founder, president, and CEO of Team Clean Incorporated. So as we begin, and you're listening closely, but don't forget to put down any questions on your cards that you may have that come to mind, and just raise your hand up and someone will come around and collect them. Okay, so we're going to begin with asking our panelists to take no more than 3 minutes each to tell us a little bit about your journey to reaching where you are today regarding business. Eric, we'll begin with you.
Is this on?
Yeah, you have to hit the button.
I'm not used to the microphone thing. All right. Good morning, everyone. So for me, I've been in banking for 8 years. I started my career in banking by mistake. I was just looking for a good job. You know, I became a single father. I have a daughter who's 15 now. And, you know, I was just looking for a 9-to-5 job, and I started in Bank of America at 16th and JFK. And I'm from North Philadelphia. So where I come from, a lot of people look like me. And we had similar perspectives, faced some of the same challenges in life. And I've seen many people have, you know, dreams of becoming entrepreneurs, of becoming homeowners, and I've seen those dreams not come to life. When I started at Bank of America, again, in my eyes, it was just a job, but I think in God's eyes, it was something completely different. It was a mission. I was there about a month, and people from my community would come by with their credit cards and knock on a glass and say, I got my first credit card. You know, people would become homeowners. And then I had people that were older in my community where I would introduce them to a financial advisor. And it would be the first time they had that type of conversation. And for the business owners, the people who own barbershops, you know, I got to stay sharp, so got to, you know, go to the barbershop. I would introduce people that I just grew up with and that I will come across every day. I would say, hey, who's your banker? And I would become their banker. And then I would see how their life would change and how important finances was and the part that finances play in everyone's lives. And from there, it became a calling. And I helped build a business banking division at Citadel Credit Union. I wrote a book last year called Who's Your Banker? And it helps minorities and women in business see the bank as a partnership versus just a transaction. And if you ask yourself that question, who's your banker, and you name a bank, Citadel, TD, Wisfis, and you don't have a person's name, you are most likely underbanked. You don't have a banker. And so that's why I wrote that book. And I had the pleasure of joining Wisfis. Am I under 3 minutes? Wisfis. In April as vice president, where everything just comes full circle, where my passion throughout my career, I'm able to do that here as VP of Small Business in Philadelphia. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Good
Brian.
morning, everyone. Thanks for having me this morning. My journey actually started here at Villanova. Booked a visa, welcome to Villanova. But I graduated 4 decades ago, actually. Been in financial services 4 decades. I left here looking for a job, and everyone said, go get some experience. Didn't have any experience, so I wound up taking a job with Prudential Life Insurance. I actually started selling life insurance, and I was assigned a community that wasn't the best community for the organization. And I wound up growing that community just simply because I was out educating people about life So I had them actually tracking stocks. We were actually beating the market, to be honest. Tracking stocks, so I was taking each stock and going using geography as well, letting them know where that company was. So we had organizations like CBS. Most people don't even know where CBS is originated. It's Woonsocket, Rhode Island. And these kids were actually little investment brokers for me. So I just grew that, and Philadelphia Financial became a part of my regular everyday thing, and I became an independent business, being able to represent people. My motto is financial planning begins with education. If you're not educated, you can't proceed forward. Currently, in addition to being the CEO of my own organization, I also head an organization called the Business Center. I'm the president of the board, and we actually go in the community and help businesses. Diana had mentioned how the businesses survive, which I think I'll entertain that question later. But also, I'm in the community now helping businesses with the business plan, helping them to get funding, helping them just to understand the basics of running a business. Because right now, you can go on Instagram, throw up a couple of pictures, and you think you're in business, but it doesn't work that way. You know, like I said, I've been in business 4 decades. There's some ups, there's some downs. There's times when, you know, I was ready to throw in the towel, but then through my faith and God and whatever else, I kept continuing, and here I am today. Thanks for having me, and whoever's next is next.
Nalani.
Hi everybody, my name is Nalani. I started my business when I was 6 years old. I designed t-shirts and sold them, and then from there I moved on to crocheted items. I crochet all sorts of stuffed animals and hats and scarves and different things like that. And then last year I published a coloring workbook to help kids talk about their mental health. So I've just been growing over the last couple of years, trying to give people courage and comfort and joy.
First of all, I got to give her a hug. Anyway, my name is Donna Alley, and I started my company, Team Clean, with a mop, a broom, and a bucket here on the main line. And today, we are $38 million in sales and 900 employees. Yeah, right here on the main line. So my story is that I was down on my luck, graduated from an HBCU, Wilberforce University, and was down on my luck, came back to the main line and couldn't find a job. So I started cleaning houses around the main line right here in Villanova, and I met a woman, and she asked me to clean her house. And so I did. I worked all day, washed the clothes and mopped the floors, and I don't know if y'all ever seen the movie The Help, but anyway, she hid that $10 in the washing machine, and at the end of the day, the $10 was still in the washing machine. So anyway, at the end of the day, she looked at me and she says, well, what? She opened up her little purse and she said, well, what do I owe you? And I actually didn't know my worth. So I said, I don't know. And I had been there all day. And so she says, well, if you don't know, I'm going to give you what I think I owe you. And she pulled out her little purse and she gave me $10 for the day. Nonetheless, I left there and vowed never to do cleaning again, but she called me back. And I'm saying, hey, Donnie, would you come back and clean my house? And I'm underneath my breath, I'm saying over my dead body, would I go back to you and clean again? But anyway, I did, and I did it with a smile. I went back to May. I cleaned her house. I became very popular. Within 3 years, I was 55 houses a week up and down the main line. Got my first job, by the way, from a minority. It's called the OEO, the Office of Equal, what's it called, Ron? OEO. But anyway, it's designed for minorities and women-owned businesses to get business in the city. I couldn't think of it right then and there. But I registered for that and got my first contract, what was then Vet Stadium, and I know like you young people don't even know what Vet Stadium is. and that was in 1990 or sometime, and I stayed there until it was imploded. Went on to Shea Stadium in New York, Oriole Park at Camden Yards, Convention Center in Philadelphia, and the story goes on and on and on. So it's been 40 years in business, and thank you very much for having me.
Well. Okay, so we've got some inspiration here and some experience and we're going to have good information. So, after hearing everybody's story, what do you believe you need to know to take an idea about what you think you want to do, pursue the idea, and then grow the idea? So, yeah, you can start.
Sure. All right. So I think that, when it comes to having a dream and wanting to make that reality, the first thing you want to do is, and no matter what your religion is, I think the first thing you want to do is pray on it. And then immediately after, you want to write it down. Because writing it down is the first step in making your idea tangible, where not only do you just see it, but anyone can see it. And that takes me to the next step, which is sharing that idea. Now, be prepared for feedback, but sharing that idea with someone you trust. I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, especially being a small business owner, a lot of us think that we have to do everything ourselves. We already wear many hats. But in entrepreneurship, the most successful businesses, they actually don't do everything themselves, right? They're open to feedback, and they have the right partners in place. And when it comes to business and entrepreneurship, there's 3 partners you need to have. That's your banker. Of course, I'm going to say myself first. Your banker, your accountant, and your attorney. The banker is free. Now, many of us as business owners and entrepreneurs, we have our deposits in the bank, but we're not asking, what is that bank doing for me, right? So that is what I would say you want to start with: prayer, and then write it down, and then get feedback from somebody that you trust. And when you write it down, you want to use a template. You want to use a business plan. You can go on, you can Google business plans, and you write out your business plan. Now, I do want to warn you, in this microwave era that we live in, you can go on social media and everybody appears to have a successful business, but that's not really true. And you were speaking to that earlier, right? You can take a chance, you can gamble, and you could just start without praying, writing it down, and asking for feedback, but you're most likely going to make many mistakes that you didn't have to make if you took those initial steps.
Thank you.
Well, as a financial planner, I always tell people, put together a business plan. Sit down, if it's on the napkin, just scratch out what you want to do. We had mentioned having a banker, accountant, and a lawyer. Have those things in place, and just pursue your passion. We had mentioned praying. Continue to pray. Don't stop praying. I pray every day before I go into a business meeting. My clients will look at me as, what are you doing? So let's pray. Because if you have God in it, it's going to work one way or another. Put together a business plan. I did a lot of work during the pandemic, and what the successful businesses were to be able to continue. They had a plan. They were able to keep who the clients were. They were able to market. Worked in a lot of food industry businesses where all of a sudden they had to pivot
for me, I would just echo what everybody else up here said. Prayer, number one, believing in yourself. And I just want to say something about a business plan because, gentlemen, I didn't have a business plan when I started. But I'm going to tell you, I would be a lot further if I had a business plan before I got started. So just whatever everybody else said.
Okay, thank you. And I want to remind everybody, as you're listening, if you have questions, write them on your cards, because we like to answer some of the questions from those of you who are listening. Okay, thank you. So in everything I've heard, there's been a couple of key words: education, planning, looking for the support that you need. So I'm gonna ask Nalani something because as a young entrepreneur who obviously is learning a lot, but when you talk about support, the role of your parents in this. Eric, so as we're talking about money to help finance, a lot of people, when they want to start, they really don't have much money, okay? So one of the questions that usually comes up is, do you need to have a certain amount of money that you've kind of raised yourself? Is it okay to look for trying to get maybe a small business loan or something like that? What would your recommendation be for that?
Thank you. So that's a great question, and I see that often. Whether someone's, before they even formatted their business, they just have an idea, and they're like, I need funding. And then you see people that's been in business for a decade, and unfortunately, those people typically are in a worse situation because they already have employees. This is their livelihood, they have to feed their family, and they run into a cash flow issue, and they need funding. So to answer your question, when it comes to any business idea, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's investing in real estate, I say there's three things that you need to have. And I say this for myself because I like to keep it simple, right? You need to have credit and good character. You need to have liquidity, and you need to have a great idea, an idea that makes sense. And for it to make sense for the bank or any other lender, it's not subjective, it's very objective. It's all about your numbers. What's the profitability? Can your business or this business idea pay back this debt that you're asking for, right? That's what it comes down to. So character, credit, and the business idea. And if you don't have it, then you need to find somebody that has this to answer your question. So I can have a great business idea and I can have good credit, but I don't have liquidity to start my business. So then I could find a partner that has the liquidity, that believes in me and believes in my idea, and I can get capital that way, but I'm probably gonna give up equity in my business. Or I can go to the bank and use my character, my credit, and get personal debt because I believe in me, and then use that to fund my business, to start my business. And then from there, I could refinance that under the business name. I do want to let you know, as soon as possible, once your business model is proven, you want to make it a priority to get all debt, capital, whatever you're doing, get that under your business. Because the main reason we start businesses and we have an EIN number is to separate ourselves from our business. So you see a lot of people who, or at least I see it, who own real estate and they're successful, but if something goes wrong, they're gonna be in a bad situation because everything is under their social security number. Or people who have businesses and then they have to restructure everything because everything is under their personal name, right? So you can get capital to answer the question, because I set it up, you can get capital without having a business started, and there's different ways you can self-fund. You can ask a friend or a family member, or you can raise capital. And then there's other types of lending, such as grants, SBA financing, right? If you want to purchase a franchise, let's say a Dunkin' Donuts, you actually only need about 10% of the capital needed. If the Dunkin' Donuts costs $1 million, that's a big number, but you need 100,000. If it's 100,000, then you need 10,000. So you need to have the liquidity, you need to have the character, you need to have a business idea that's proven, and that's all about the numbers. So one of the three or all three.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we're starting to get some questions in. So Donna, it's a question for you. And it's, could you talk a little more about how you scaled your business?
A little bit more, oh yeah. I often say that, first of all, let's talk about the transition from residential to commercial, because a lot of people are interested in that. And I always tell people that if it had not been for those programs designed to help minority and women-owned businesses, I would probably be still cleaning houses around the main line. So it is important now that in the days of all the DEI talk, that we be aware and awoke. A lot of my business came from, even when I mentioned to you that I did Veterans Stadium, the only reason that I was able to perform my service and get a contract, which at that time was $250,000, and I was so happy, was because it was mandated that if you did business in the city of Philadelphia, a majority-owned company, that you had to spend or contract out 20%, 30% of that business to a woman or minority-owned business. So I was, I guess, you know, I had enough hustle in me to learn how the Aramarks and the ISSs, I don't know if those names are familiar to you all, but how they did it, how the big boys did it. And then I kind of took off from there. But again, I want to emphasize that we must pay attention to DEI and these big corporations. And I work for big corporations, but the reason I work for those big corporations, first of all, is because I'm good. But second of all, is because they have a diversity program, which mandates that they have to do business with a minority or female-owned company. And there's a lot of other, you know, LGBTQ and disabled and veterans. But so anyway, I don't know if that answered your question.
Okay.
So.
Great. Okay. Now here's a question regarding our high school students. And the question basically is, how can we make our high school children more interested in economic literacy? Do they need to have mentors in high school, cheerleaders, community folks? So what can we do to help our young people become more interested in this area? Right.
I think, first of all, we need to change the curriculum in high schools. Back when I was in school, we had home economics, those type of programs, and they've been, in some cases, eliminated, so you don't understand how to maybe cook or whatever. I took algebra and all that, and I rarely use it, but when somebody asks me a tax question, fortunately, I know that. So the funniest thing is when my daughters, I have 3 daughters, whenever they started working, they come to me, Dad, what's this called?
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. When I was in school, I wasn't the best student. My teachers and professors would be happy to hear that I finally admitted it. But one thing for me is school wasn't like fun, and I think to relate to high school students and young adults that are in college, make it fun for them. Money is a very boring topic. Even now, and I believe in the importance of being a forever learner when you're passionate about something. So now I'm passionate about money, but I've had experiences where I had no money. I've had experiences where, I had a business idea and I wanted to make it happen. And so I learned that way. I think for students, until you can change the curriculum, because that's a heavy lift, but we definitely need to do it, just make it fun for them. Maybe do like a Shark Tank event and find out what their passions are and what they're passionate about, and say, hey, how can we create a business plan around this? And if you could do this your way, how would you do it, right? So find some way to make it fun for the kids, because remember, or young adults, because when you grow up, life gets real, and then you're forced to learn. But, if I could think back on my younger days, if money was more of a fun topic, I probably would have enjoyed it instead of falling asleep or just partying and not paying attention.
I'd also like to mention that we've actually been running Shark Tank sessions for teenagers. And I've seen some business plans that, I was like, why didn't I think about that? Why didn't I think about that? But there's, we're running those things, and it's not quite like the TV show where, it doesn't work that way. But we give away money to help seed and fund businesses. And I've seen some pretty impressive ideas out there. So, that's what's happening.
Okay,
We're
thank
trying to
you.
be creative as much as we can.
Great. Nalani, this question is for you. How did you become comfortable talking with others about your business, and how did you create your mission?
I would say
Use the mic. Is the mic on?
one way that
Okay. Okay, so how did you become comfortable talking with others about your business, and how did you create your mission?
So kind of like what was stated before, my business was something that was fun for me, especially when I first started. It was like a really fun process. I would draw something and then it would be made into a t-shirt. So that was just something that I really liked to do, and it was something that was really fun for me. So from there, it was just something that I would talk about always. I'm a talker, I like to talk. So it would just always come up, and just something that I became comfortable sharing with. My dad is a therapist, so a lot of the times we have certain conversations around things like these, or just conversations in general. So that helped me at home to have those conversations, to then have those conversations in public.
Okay, and how about your mission?
My mission and vision kind of it developed over time. To be honest, I don't remember a lot of when it first started, but now I know that through my work and through all that I've been doing, I want to help kids, especially to see themselves in a better light, and to just install courage and comfort and joy.
Okay, great. Okay. Questions are coming in. Okay. All right, this one is for everyone. How did or do you balance your personal life as you grew your business?
Well, for me, I was fortunate enough that I was in an industry that I could take my daughter along with me many times. And it was really a good ride for me, because she, saw all of the hardships and the trials and tribulations that I went through. But work-life balance is hard. It's still hard. After 40 years, I'm still trying to figure it out. I had a good support with my mom. I was single, by the way, but I had a good support system with my mother and neighbors and everybody helping with my daughter. But I do kind of regret because, you know, she would always admire families that were, or her friends that had families with both parents there, and, you know, the mother and father at home at dinner time, and those who could spend time with her. But on the other hand, you know, I was able to do the kind of things for her that other parents couldn't do. So, but again, the work-life balance is very difficult. But I did take my vacations twice a year. I did that for my own sanity.
Good, good. Okay.
I think for me, work balance is, first, you prioritize, put God in your life or whoever you have as your, inspiration. But I've always been fortunate that I've been an independent contractor or been self-employed, so I could set my schedule. Raising 3 girls, being involved in different activities, I was blessed to be able to support them in whatever they did. If it was a dance recital, it was a basketball game, soccer game, I was able to be there. The fortunate thing, yet we were in a pandemic, was that we began to shift. So around that time, I left corporate America and decided to do my own thing. Thank God for Zoom. I set up an office in my house where each day, usually I'm not dressed like this early, where I can jump and I can do my business. I can go out and the work balance is pretty good for me right now, being in the business for as long as I have. The hustle's not the same, being around people kind of know what you do now, so I'm not knocking on doors. I literally began my business knocking on doors, cold calling, that type of stuff, so I don't do a lot of that. I was, like I said, I was blessed to be able to be in my family's life. My daughters would get sick, they called dad. That was it. I was always able to do that. Turn down promotions because family was first. And in the end, God works it out for you anyway. You can only make but so much money. That you get to a point where what else can you buy? How many cars can you buy? How much clothes can you buy? And in the transition, I've actually become a minimalist. I figured out what I like to wear, and I wear it almost every day. That's sweatpants. So, that's my balance. I'm relaxed, not stressed like you used to. You always, when you're in corporate America, you got a production number. Everybody you're looking at, is that a sale? Is that a sale? I don't operate that way, and I think just the way that I move in the community has made life that less stressful.
Nalani, is there a balance for you? How do you balance school and your business?
For me, obviously it's a little bit different. I mainly will do certain things towards my business on the weekends, or if I have a day where I don't have homework after school, I might brainstorm some things or think about some things. But a lot of things that I do towards my business are usually during spring break or summer break or during the weekends, or if I have like a random thought during the week. But just finding ways to incorporate it here and there. Like was said before, family is always first for me. School and education is first. So I always prioritize homework and other things like that. But when I have time, I do try to contribute to my business.
Okay. All right. So, what was or is it like when you begin a business, I guess yourself, and then you bring in other employees? Is it difficult or challenging to move from solo to numerous employees?
I'll answer that. Yes, it is difficult. When you're starting out just by yourself, like when I was just cleaning houses, right, by myself, I knew who I was. I knew the job that I was going to do. But then when I started hiring other people, it became a little bit difficult. One time there was a theft, then the lawsuits come for discrimination. I don't know, all sorts of things. But you can't grow a business without people. And you can't grow a business without finding people who know it better than you. So, and that's the key. You know, a lot of people that I know that are in business, they think they have all the answers, but you don't have all the answers. So I'm always looking for people, you know, for my HR manager, I'm looking for somebody who knows it better than I do. Now I know every aspect of my business because I started out so low. I had to be, you know, the financial controller, I had to be the recruiter, I had to be the cleaner, I had to be all of those. So I know it, I know every part of my business, but I don't know it as well as others do. So I'm always seeking out those professionals that know it better than myself.
Okay, great, thank you. Solani, when, with your business and as you're making money, how do you focus on saving money you make? You know, how do you do that?
When I do different vending opportunities or different opportunities to make money, a lot of the times all the money that I make from that, I will deposit it to the bank, to my savings account. So a lot of the times it goes straight from when I made it to into the bank. Um, That's pretty much it.
And the rest, so like, you know, when you think about what you need to put back into the business or that, so. Mhm.
Yeah, definitely that is a thought that comes into play. But like I said, a lot of times I make the money and then I put it into the bank, and then when talking about different things like the necessities to make the things that I'm producing, will sometimes come from that, or the profit that I make from its account.
Okay, so this question, for anyone who wants to answer, what is the biggest challenge as a person of color in launching, sustaining a successful business?
I'll jump in on that. I think it's coming into the room, and sometimes people don't know who you are. I've been a VP, walked in the room, and it's been assumed that I'm not who I am. And popular culture is like, they not like us. You know, you hear that a lot, and you feel that when you walk in the room, and then it's always you've got to be extra. You know, you code switch, depending on who you're talking to. So it's sometimes a challenge, but I think as you proceed, you just have faith and confidence in yourself that I have the abilities and I'm supposed to be where I'm supposed to be.
Great.
So I would say that it's always been a challenge for me as a black woman. It's always been a challenge, even up until yesterday. Always a challenge. And, you know, some of the things that I remember earlier on was that I would go into a boardroom, you know, to negotiate a contract. And the people who were speaking would speak to everyone else but me. I'm the subject matter expert. I know my industry. I know what I'm doing. But the questions were always directed to someone else as opposed to me. And I think what happened recently that really, but I never gave up. You know, I never gave up. But what happened to me recently, and which was really, really alarming, was that we bid for a contract, and the contract was $33 million. I won't tell you who it was. It was a public entity, but I won't tell you. It was $33 million over a 6-year period. And, you know, my industry, that's pretty big, right? There's nothing new under the sun in terms of the building maintenance or cleaning industry. You're pulling from the same pool of people. In fact, you have union people, so they have to stay there with that particular account. The management is just about the same. The equipment that you use is just about the same. So there's nothing really new or different. I'm local. I'm here. I had been there before as a subcontractor. But for whatever reason that I couldn't, and my price was lower And they chose the majority-owned company from California to service this contract as opposed to me. I couldn't think, and you know what? I'm telling you, when you can't, and I asked for, a post-conference, to find out, they ducked and dodged and made all these stories, your finances are not as great. And, that wasn't true. The bank stepped up. You can't get a bonding. My bond company, they stepped up to the plate, sent them letters, everything. So when you can't find a reason why, the first thing you look at is, it's got to be this. And so, it's very, very hard, and that's why I keep on saying that, these DEI programs are very important. And you guys say you got to have a good accountant, you got to have, what else did you say? A banker?
And a banker.
And an attorney. And I say all of those things, and politicians.
Okay.
Period.
Okay. All right. So this question, relationship building, okay, seems like a big part of the process. What are some ways to position and put yourself in a place to build good relationships and connections?
I think the biggest thing is to speak to people. You walk around and just say good morning. You never know who that person is. Smile. I think my biggest connector is to smile and say good morning. It's that easy. And through the years, I've been able to network with the right people. Not so much the politicians, but you just got to be aware. You got to know who's in the room. And it could be I've always been taught that you respect everybody in the building, whether it's the janitor or whether it's the CEO. In some of the organizations where I've been able to be successful, because I met the people on the lower rung, so to speak, and they were able to get me to the CEO. And I think the CEOs respected me because, for me, it's everyday people. I go back to the Stone song, which I grew up with. We're all just everyday people. You got to find that commonality, and that's how you really connect with people.
Great. Now, how do you connect with other mainline Black entrepreneurs? Should there be a mainline Black Chamber of Commerce?
Can I answer that, please? So we started an organization called Mainline to Be. And Craig Whitney, who's there, he's, a member of Mainline to Be. And how it started was this. We had this, Mainline, I think it was a Black Mainline reunion. Is that right, Craig? The Black Mainline reunion. And so Craig and some others, we were on the committee to look at Black businesses back in the day. I think we went back about maybe 30 years or something like that. And we counted all the Black businesses that were on the main line. I mean, they might not mean much to you young folks in the room, but we had the Iceman, and we had the chauffeur, and the butler, and, just a whole host of people. And we counted, I think we got up to maybe about like 60 or 70. And then we went to today, and we started counting the Black-owned businesses on the main line, and heck, we couldn't come up with 15. And so, we started, kind of like approaching the developers on the main line who were just, doing all this different development on buildings and whatnot, and approaching them to do business with Black-owned companies on the main line. And shamefully, Craig, am I right? We couldn't come up with 10 mainline Black contractors to do business with these different developers around the main line. We're still trying, and so we just, kind of, made it a little, our reach a little further. But being Black business on the main line I think we need to gather together. We need to go to, gather together with our churches, with our schools, and really push that, because we do need more Black-owned businesses on the main line.
Yeah, for me, I lived on the main line for 25 years. I no longer live here, but my success was crossing city line, to be honest. When you start talking money and you're trying to help people with their money, for some reason, the color of my skin just wasn't a great sell. So I started crossing city line, and that's where most of my success came from, to be honest.
Can I just say,
Working with the local churches,
yeah.
they've always supported me and my business.
Can I just say one more thing, that we didn't even, when we started doing our research, and Craig and I and some others, we couldn't even find a diversity initiative within Lower Marion Township. They had no diversity issue. So then we went to Montgomery County, and we couldn't find anything there. And I think maybe this was about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe a little bit different. But I think that's one of the reasons that we have to push for our politicians to, in Montgomery County and in Lower Marion, to look at some DEI initiatives.
Okay. This question, how would you start a store in your town that sells hair products? Any? Well, it says in your town, so I guess it could be anywhere. How would you start that process?
I think one of the most innovative things is, use social media. I've been working with some clients that have invested, go on social media, and use that as a platform to generate capital, and then move that business into a storefront. So I think it's just getting awareness of what you do, what your product is. And I think in today's world, to have a storefront may be something that's an extra expense, because a lot of businesses you can
That overhead.
completely different
Right,
than
right.
than your traditional business. Sometimes I look at the storefront might be an additional expense that in the beginning you might not have to take on.
Right. Okay. What was a big task that you had to face owning a Black store?
I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
What was a big task that you had to face owning a Black store?
I would say, because I also work as a business consultant, so
Mm-hmm.
a lot of places that I do consult with have storefronts, so I'll speak from that experience.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest challenge is to find a storefront,
Mm-hmm.
operating the storefront, getting people to the storefront. We say location is what attracts business, so that's sometimes a challenge. And just creating a customer base and having that loyalty of having customers
Okay.
is a big challenge.
Okay. So with all of the different aspects of business that we've been talking about, did you ever feel like giving up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think one of the, well, first of all, when COVID came about, when COVID came around, all my customers, like the Kimmel Center, the Convention Center, all these different clients, well, they closed their doors. So I was like, oh my gosh, we had to lay off all these employees, and I prayed and I said, God, if this is it, this is it. What can I do? And lo and behold, because of COVID and the industry that I'm in, people were calling like, Don, I need my place disinfected, and all these large corporations were calling. So our business went up about 40% during COVID. So I got ready to quit. That was the one time that I wanted to give up. And the other time I wanted to give up was when the union organized us. And that was, many years ago. And I'm not anti-union, but I was then. And but when they started picketing the place that I was cleaning, which was the School District of Philadelphia, when they made these little phony dollar bills and put my name on the front of it, and put in Donna, we don't trust, and stood out in the street and started passing them out. And I would go to dinner with my husband and cry in my soup, and he would laugh at me. But for me, you know, it was very, very, I mean, that was something that, because where I was coming from was like, you know, you don't believe in me? I mean, you don't believe in me? I gave you the job. I pay your salary. I do everything I'm supposed to do, but you want to go to the union because you think that, you know, they can do a better job. But I understand it now, but that was the 2 times that I was going to give it up in my career.
Okay.
I think the times that I was going to give up were the times that reawakened me and let me know how really important I am in doing what I do. So it kept me going and helped me to actually get stronger. And sometimes you just got to check yourself. Is this something I really want to do? And those are the times that will come. And, you know, we all go through a test. So that for me, that's always been a test. During the pandemic, my business actually grew because now all of a sudden people trying to find money. And I had, just before the pandemic, I had hip surgery where I was immobile. And I got a call and someone said, can you work as a technical advisor for these folks that are looking for monies for their business? So I couldn't move well. But the first day I had 20 calls. And I just started helping people. And then through me helping people, when the pandemic was over, we had talked about relationships. I built all these relationships that now my business has actually grown because of the pandemic.
Great.
So you got to look at the hardships as you got to weigh it. You got to look at it. Is this hardship or is God trying to tell me something?
Okay. Nalani, what has been your best experience as a business owner?
I'd probably say getting to go to events and vending and just getting to meet different people and sharing my story and sharing my products with them. It's always nice to see different people and to sort of share my story and see how they react, but also to see how my products help them and how they changed them in a way. I've had many people come back to me and say very lovely, kind things about the things that I'm doing. So that's always something that has been something that I look forward to.
Eric, why are so many businesses underbanked?
That's a great question. So first off, is just systematic disparities that many of us aren't aware of. We don't talk about. We talk about DEI and everything like that, but we don't often talk about how we got here. And it's interesting, you know, on the way here this morning, I was listening to some of our civil rights leaders have a talk prior to the Million Man March. And I looked at the date, and I'm like, wow, this wasn't even that long ago. And I'm on my way here to have not the same conversation, but a similar conversation, right? We're having a conversation today because of economic disparities, right? And the knowledge gap, and that the knowledge gap creates the wealth gap. And so what we have to remember is that 1970, 1972, women couldn't even get a loan without a cosigner. We have to remember that, you know, 1950, 1954, we're talking about the right to vote, home ownership, things like that. And we went from there to now having businesses that employs 900, you said 900 employees?
Yep.
Yeah, you know, so that's a long way. And so when I was driving here today and I was thinking like, wow, we are a part of history and we all have a fiduciary responsibility where we may not all agree with each other, we may not all agree with what we see, what we hear, but we have to support each other because that's how change happened, you know, 70 years ago. Everything that our civil rights leaders have done, what they fought for, is why we're able to be in this room together today and talk about these things. And so there's work that we have to do that people 50 years from now, 60 years from now, will enjoy and benefit from because of what we're doing today. And what we have to do today is we have to educate ourselves, right? So the reason why so many is underbanked is due to knowledge, right? Any gap that we face is usually due to a knowledge gap, right? And I can say as a banker, I'm noticing that it's not a black or white thing, it's an American thing. So I see people that are, yeah, there's a lot more African Americans that have this disparity when I ask them who's their banker, and they're like, what do you mean? Chase. I go to Chase. I go to TD. And I'm like, yeah, but who's your banker? And usually I have to ask them 3 or 4 times. And then there's other people who come in and they demand a banker. I need a new banker. How can you help me? You know, and they know the importance of having that bank partnership and leverage to grow their business. You know, so it's due to knowledge. And we just have to educate ourselves. I think it's interesting being someone who's on social media and everything quite often. I'm like, wow, we have access to so much information. Anytime my daughter asks me something, I'm like, did you Google it? Did you chat GPT it? You know, because she asked me things I didn't even think about, like, why are the clouds white? I don't know, you know? So, but we have access to so much information now, a lot of misinformation as well, but we have to do our due diligence, leverage the tools that we use to do other things with, and get access to that information, connect with the right people. You know, partnerships goes a long way, right? So you don't have to know everything, but knowing the right people helps out a lot.
Okay. And also for you, how can Wishless Bank help minority and women-owned businesses versus local townships and counties?
Yeah, so Wisfis may not like that I'm gonna say this part, but really, most banks, we all do the same thing. There's different types of banks. There's credit unions, there's regional banks, there's local banks, there's community banks. There's banks that focus just on lending. But at the end of the day, banks offer the same products and solutions. What's different is the people. So when you go into a bank, you know, remember that at the end of the day, we're just dealing with people no matter what we do, right? There can be multiple financial literacy businesses, there's multiple banks, there's multiple cleaning companies, but at the end of the day, we choose to do business with who we like the most and who's the most knowledgeable. But what Wisfis is doing, like I say, I've been to 4 or 5 different banks. The bank that I came from, I left, even though I helped build the division there, I left because though the products and solutions was the same, their mission was different. They did not care about some of the things that we're talking about today. Wisfis is a bank that does, and we put our money where our mouth is. I mean, they hired me, and I'm VP of Small Business, and there's no one else that looks like me that's VP of Small Business, but they did it for a reason, right? They did it not just because of what I look like, but because of my perspective and my knowledge and my passion for helping out particular communities as well. So Wisfis is a bank that really cares about diversity. They've been around for over 200 years. I'm not doing a sales pitch now, but we also invest in different funds. When you're a new business owner and entrepreneur, access to capital is something that is important for every business owner and entrepreneur, whether you're starting out or whether you're established, because if you're out of capital, then you're out the game, right? It's like Monopoly. If anybody played Monopoly, the board game, when you run out of money, the game is over for you. That's the same way in real life, right? So you need access to capital, and so Wisfis, not only do we provide the representation where you can talk to someone like me, a banker, that may not, if you can't qualify now, we will at least have a plan for you to qualify next year or the year after. There's also grants that the bank invests in. We've invested over $3 million this year in different funds around Philadelphia that's available to the small business owner. Most of them just don't know about it, but we will also connect you with these places.
Okay. So I've got one more question, and then I'm going to give a question for everybody to wrap up. All right, so this one is speaking on how to deal with the challenge of dealing with employees who may be packing. It costs a lot to have an HR person or departments to handle problems and employees. Okay.
I'm sorry, but could you repeat the first part?
The first part is dealing with employees who may be packing.
Who may be?
Packing, I guess, carrying or.
Oh, packing a gun.
Mm.
They strap.
Wow, I
Yeah.
I never really had that issue, but
Okay.
and dealing with employees that might be packing, I've never really had that. But having an HR department is a must when you get to a certain size. And by the way, you have all these payroll companies like ADP and what is it, Paychecks. They all have these HR divisions, so it's not really costly. And then you have good old AI, but I wouldn't. Pardon me.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Sorry. So,
So they're not doing their job.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Dealing
Yeah,
with
okay.
as many employees that we have, 900 union employees, it is kind of difficult. But we have a robust HR department, and we also have a labor attorney, because you can imagine that there's a lot of grievances and all that kind of stuff that goes along with it. So we have a labor attorney, we have an HR department, and then we have a recruiter, because we're always, our industry, it's kind of like, in the door and out the door sometimes. So we have a dedicated recruiter. So, I mean, HR and our business in any service industry, it's about the labor and the management. It's about managing people and, finding the labor that fits. And, I've had a difficult time, because even, a lot of people want to dummy down our industry, but they found out after COVID that our industry is extremely important. And, I believe that in creating the kind of culture, the HR culture that we need, and I always tell my recruiting department that I just don't want bodies. We want you to study those individuals. Who are the individuals within the company that come to work every day, that enjoy their work, that clean well? And you have to study those people, go out, interview them. Where did they come from? What church did they go to? What synagogue did they go to? Do they have a family? Do they have a second job? And then what you do is you model those individuals. What movies do they go to? So you kind of go out and recruit those individuals that are like the type of individual that you already have. HR is, woo. But anyway, that's my answer.
Thank you. Okay. So, in this, our final question, what special advice would you give to anyone who is considering starting a business on the main line?
I'll start it off. I think for any business, make sure you remember, your why. Why are you doing this? Because we talked earlier about giving up. And I think anything that's great in life is going to come with adversity. It's going to be hard, especially if you're a first generation. For someone like myself, I'm first generation many things. First generation high school graduate, first generation going to college, first generation graduating, first generation entrepreneur, first generation corporate America, and the list goes on. And there's so many times where I thought about giving up, and it's in those moments that you come face to face with you, and you have to remember your why, and you think to yourself, this is the time that counts. So I think that remembering your why before you start any business endeavor is certainly important, or anything great. And know that there will be challenges. There's going to be hard days. There's going to be days where you feel like giving up. So I think that's important, remembering your why, having a plan, and cultivating relationships. Think about your social media presence. That goes a long way. I see a lot of people miss out on opportunities, or people who don't do business with people because what they have on social media. And then I see it the opposite way, where people who I actually have a client and a good friend who recently wrote a book. And because he has 3 million followers on Instagram, that book was #1 bestseller like overnight, the moment he posted it. And so we live in an amazing time right now where we have access to things that we haven't had access to historically. So just remember that as well, and it can be something that helped you or something that hurt you.
Thank you. Ron.
Yeah, I go back to the fact that you gotta have a plan, put together some type of a business plan. Take the idea, seek out those folks that can help you implement that plan. I talk about our business plan course. You actually do a deep dive. Who's your customer? Who's gonna buy this product that you have? Where are you gonna locate? You know, if you're selling hair care products on the main line, will that really work? Is there a demographic that will support you and your business? Business planning, marketing, how you gonna market yourself? I think you gotta have all that in place before you put up a shingle outside the door. Because if you don't, you're gonna continue to spin your wheels. So that you know what your business cycle is. In the fall, I'm gonna be hot. In the winter, business is gonna slow, so you can be able to plan. I'm not gonna make much money in the winter, so I gotta put away some stuff like a squirrel so that when I come back, I've got enough money to succeed in my business. And just make sure you have the right people in place. We mentioned accountant, banker, lawyer,
Politician.
and politician. So that, you know, the worst case, that if something happens to you, you got those things in place. Know what your business structure is. You can go online right now and set up an LLC. You know, you can go to LegalZoom or whatever those companies, but understand what an LLC is. Understand how your business structure will change. Donna started as a solopreneur. Now she's got 900 employees. So you got to make that suitable. You got to find out who you need to grow your business. You got to scale your business. I operate as a solopreneur because I work more so as a consultant. I'm able to slide in as someone's CFO and assume a role within that organization. So my business structure is completely different. So just have a plan, have a lot of faith, a whole lot of faith. Pray every day. First thing I do in the morning before my foot hits the floor is I pray. And it's frustrating some days. You have wins, and you're gonna take a lot of L's. Probably more L's than the wins, but you gotta take the L's and learn from the L's. Don't get disappointed in yourself and just keep the train moving. You know, stop at each stop, do what you need to do, but put your foot back on the accelerator and keep it moving, as they say.
I would probably say never stop dreaming. Always believe that whatever it is that you want to do, always believe that it's possible. Always do everything necessary that you need to do to make that dream come true. I think it's so important to always value our dreams and really make them a reality. Always keep smiling, even when it's hard. Just keep going and keep pressing through.
The only thing I would add to what everyone said here is to connect with the community. In this room, I have my spiritual advisors, the Pollards. I have Craig Whitney, my first accountant, Ron, my financial advisor, friends back there, and they all are cheerleading me on. All throughout my career, I started here, and they continue to cheer me on. And, you know, most important, you know, like Ron and others said, is God, believing in God. And, you know, just having faith that you can do it and never, ever, 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 ever give up. Right, Alyssa? Thank you.
Thank you. Can we give them a hand? And just as a takeaway, when we think about the words used with everybody, the planning, the cultivating relationships, social media, marketing, being educated about the whole business structure and what it is you need to do, finding the support that you need. And I just want to add in there, and we talk about the faith, having faith in the dreams, and always be willing to put in the work. I think that's the other piece of it. It's not going to be handed to you. It's not going to be, you know, just wake up and I'm ready. But be willing to put in the work with everything else, and you'll be successful. Thank you.
I want to thank our panel and our moderator very much. Can we just give them one more hand? I'm glad that Diana did that kind of gathering up the takeaways. You have these cards on the table, so I think it's a good idea at this point to, if you've been taking some notes, to just jot down your takeaways. Similar to Diana, I had some notes like be your whole self, build relationships, be in community, education is important, financial literacy is important, but also what can our towns, counties, and our federal government do to encourage the growth of minority and women-owned businesses in our country. So I add those couple takeaways, but it's just good to just take a minute and gather your thoughts and just jot them down so you can take them with you. We're going to have our closing prayer, and after the closing prayer, we're going to have our Black entrepreneurs gathering at these tables over here. So I have a short list of some of the businesses represented. So Team Clean, Nalani Adele Collections, Philadelphia Financial Consultants, LLC, George Talks, LLC, and Whitney Sims Realty, LLC, and Tax Consultant. So if those folks could gather up at the tables up there just after the closing prayer, then anybody who wants to come and talk with them can. And if there are any other business owners here who want to come up, just definitely please do. I'm just trying to compile a list. And next year we meet for the community breakfast, Undoing Racism Day, on September 17th. So save that date, Wednesday, September 17th. That will be the 15th Undoing Racism Day that we've had. So we'll see what topic everybody wants to talk about next September. And then even in March, we're planning kind of a follow-up Zoom to this event so we can see, coming out of this event, what other things along this similar topic do we want to talk about in March in the cold weather via Zoom. So thank you all for coming, and I'm going to turn over to Reverend Carolyn Cavanis for our closing prayer. Reverend Carolyn is the pastor of the Bethel AME Church in Ardmore, and she is the vice president of the Community Breakfast Collaborative.
Good morning, everyone. Let's just have a hand clap. This has been an amazing conversation, an opportunity we've been able to share, and thank you. And we also want to, on behalf of the board of the Community Breakfast, we just want to salute our fearless leaders. So let's give a hand clap for Ann and her dedication to this work and commitment. And so as we share now to depart from this place, let us share in a word of prayer. Creator God, Mother and Father of us all, thank you for your unconditional love. Thank you for wisdom and guidance. Thank you for the table that was spread today and the opportunity to hear, to listen, to learn, and to also to be challenged. We ask that you would lead us and that we would all be proponents and ambassadors of goodness and opportunities that would bring prosperity and success, not to some, but to all. Thank you for the voices that we heard this morning. May you bless these businesses and others that will emerge and that will come. Bless our relationships. Bless the opportunities that you afford us to bring the kingdom down. We also remember those who are less fortunate than we, and we also commit ourselves to be conduits of justice and mercy and grace. Make our paths clear. Lead us through tough times so that we can learn to make the right decisions. Open up doors, open up windows, open up ideas, pour down innovation, creativity, make pathways straight. Be with us. Guide us as this day unfolds. Give us this day our daily bread. We pray this prayer in your name. We say together, amen.